everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Growth Digger. I'm Akanksha Das, Director of Marketing and Communications at Growth Natives. Today's episode focuses on a platform many growing companies rely on, HubSpot, and a challenge that often emerges as they scale. HubSpot is known for being easy to use, quick to implement, and effective in the early stages. But as companies grow, something starts to change. Processes become more complex, data increases, and suddenly what once worked seamlessly begins to create friction. So the key question is, when does HubSpot's out-of-the-box setup stop working, and what should scale-ups do next? To break this down, I'm joined by Gaurav Rajput, Senior Director, MarTech at Growth Natives. Gaurav, great to have you here.
Thanks, Akanksha. This is a very common situation. HubSpot works exceptionally well in the early stages, but growth introduces complexity that outpaces its default setup.
Let's start with the core issue. Is this a limitation of HubSpot as a platform?
Not really. The issue is not HubSpot, it's complexity. Out of the box, HubSpot is designed for simplicity and speed. That's its biggest strength. But scale ups operate in a very different environment. They deal with multiple products, geographies, buyer personas, and longer sales cycles. At that point, the business outgrows the simplicity HubSpot was designed for.
So the platform doesn't fail, the context changes.
Exactly. And that's when customization becomes essential, not optional.
Let's get into the signs. What's the first indicator that out of the box HubSpot is no longer enough?
The first major sign is pipeline rigidity. Default pipeline stages work well for simple sales processes, but they don't reflect complex B2B buying journeys.
What happens when pipelines don't match reality?
Sales teams lose trust in the system. They stop updating deals accurately, create workarounds, and eventually, pipeline data becomes unreliable.
So visibility into deal progress is compromised.
Exactly, and that directly impacts forecasting and decision making. The solution is to move toward customized pipelines, aligned with actual buyer behavior, not generic stages.
What's the next major challenge scale-ups face?
Reporting limitations. As organizations grow, leadership needs more precise and actionable insights, but standard dashboards often don't reflect how the business truly operates.
And teams start relying on spreadsheets.
Exactly. When teams export data to Excel to answer basic questions, it's a clear sign that the reporting layer is insufficient.
So what changes at this stage?
Companies need custom reporting frameworks, tracking metrics like customer health, true ROI, funnel performance by segment, and lifecycle consistency.
Automation is one of HubSpot's biggest strengths. Does that also become a challenge at scale?
Yes, it does. Automation works well at smaller volumes, but as data grows, workflows become noisy and harder to manage.
What kind of issues emerge?
You see irrelevant automated emails, unmanageable task queues, and workflows that don't scale effectively. The system becomes more complex without necessarily becoming more efficient.
So the goal shifts from more automation to smarter automation.
Exactly. This involves structured data, conditional logic, and more advanced workflow design, sometimes requiring upgrades or custom solutions.
Let's talk about integrations. How does the tech stack evolve at this stage?
As companies grow, they add more tools, marketing platforms, finance systems, support tools. If these systems are not well integrated, data becomes fragmented.
And that affects trust in the system.
Exactly. Teams start manually transferring data, reports become inconsistent, and HubSpot stops being a reliable source of truth.
So what's the solution here?
Building a unified RevOps foundation through native integrations, deeper system connections, and structured data architecture.
Another shift in scale-ups is team structure. How does that impact HubSpot?
As companies grow, roles become specialized: SDRs, AEs, account managers, customer success teams. Out of the box, HubSpot struggles to manage complex handoffs between these roles.
And that affects the customer journey.
Exactly. Without structured ownership, transfers, and workflows, the experience becomes inconsistent. The solution is to design systems that support role based processes and post sale workflows effectively.
How can companies recognize that they've reached the tipping point?
There are some clear indicators. Sales teams find the CRM difficult to use. Multiple processes are being managed outside the system. Reporting relies heavily on spreadsheets. You're hitting limits on workflows or users.
So these are operational signals, not just technical ones.
Exactly. They reflect misalignment between the system and the business.
At this stage, many companies think about customization. What should they be careful about?
The biggest risk is over engineering without strategy. Most issues at scale are not tool problems, they are architecture problems.
What happens without the right approach?
You end up with messy data, overly complex workflows, confused teams, and fragile systems.
So, customization without strategy creates more problems.
Exactly. The goal is not to customize everything, it's to design a system that scales sustainably.
How does you approach HubSpot customization for scale ups?
I treat HubSpot as an evolving system, not a fixed template. I start with business first discovery, understanding sales motions, goals, and structure before touching the platform.
So, strategy comes before tools.
Exactly. Then we design scalable architecture, custom objects, advanced workflows, lifecycle governance, and integrations that support long term growth.
And how do you avoid overcomplication?
By focusing on clarity and maintainability, the goal is to reduce friction, not add unnecessary complexity.
Let's wrap this up with key takeaways.
First, HubSpot's out of the box setup is ideal for early stage growth, but not for long term scale. Second, most challenges at scale are due to business complexity, not platform limitations. Third, customization should be driven by strategy and architecture, not ad hoc fixes.
If there's one key insight from today's episode, it's this. Out of the box HubSpot is a great starting point, but scaling requires intentional design.
Exactly. With the right approach, HubSpot can evolve from a simple CRM into a true revenue system.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. This was extremely insightful.
Thanks, Akanksha. Great conversation.
And thank you to everyone listening. We'll see you in the next episode of Growth Digger.